Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Intuitive Angling, and hope you guys are doing well, and really appreciate y'all making some time to check today's video out. And guys, I'm not really going to enjoy doing this video. This is one of those videos that I don't like to do, but I think it needs to be said because you probably heard about it. It's just a big news in the industry right now that Scott Martin has withdrew from the Bassmaster Elite Series for the 2025 season in light of he got disqualified at a tournament at Lake Okeechobee earlier in the year, and he's currently being protested for the Bassmaster event coming up on Albemarle Sound. So we're going to get into that in today's video and sort of go over just the freaking tailspin that Bassmaster and some other organizations are in right now. And this is just sort of this is sort of a symptom of the overall, root problem that the tournament fishing has right now that I want to get into and give you guys some commentary. Also, guys, a big thank you out there. I just want to extend to everybody that's taken time to hit that subscribe button here at Intuitive Angling. We've had some really good growth the last couple of weeks and trying to hit that 150,000 subscriber mark. So I'd like to invite everybody to hit that subscribe button if you like the content here. So dragging a little bit this morning, guys. The kids last night had a big sleepover, and they were up until they must have been up till like 2:30 in the morning. Of course, I was too, so I'm just dragging a little bit this morning on today's video. Okay, so anyway, what the deal was, guys, Scott announced on a Facebook post that it was very difficult for me to watch because you could tell how much this hurt Scott. And I got to tell you right off the bat right now, guys, I like Scott Martin a lot. I fished around Scott for over 20 years. He is the epitome of what a professional bass angler is in terms of just the whole overall image. I've seen him around fans, guys. He is so good and so friendly and accommodating around fans. Always positive, upbeat. He's been a fixture in the sport in terms of the organizations really promoting tournament anglers because he's sort of the whole package. He's an unbelievable angler. He's a good-looking guy. He's personable. He's successful. He's got a great family. The whole 9 yards. I just think Scott has been really, really good for the sport. And again, I think, in my opinion, guys, Scott Martin is the #1 most underrated bass angler in the history of the sport because he spent most of his career with FLW. And I don't care how good you were, if you chose to fish FLW back at the heyday, guys like Andy Morgan, David Dudley, Scott Martin, Clark Winlet, you suffered as a result in terms of your brand recognition because FLW did a terrible job about promoting the anglers. It was more about the sponsors for them. And on the other hand, the Bassmaster Elite Series really promoted the anglers. So you had a lot of anglers that achieved a tremendous amount of notoriety from fishing Bassmaster that did not have near the credentials that Scott Martin did. Scott won Angler of the Year titles with FLW, Forest Wood Cup, and I don't care what anyone says, guys, because I fished them both. I fished them both at the same time, full time. When FLW was at the top of their game from the late 90s to the mid 2000s, the competition on the FLW Tour was much stiffer than the Bassmaster Top 150 or the Elite Series because I fished them both. I was there, I know. So I want to get that out, that I like Scott a lot on this. So anyway, he announced on his Facebook page, and I'll link this post, the video post, so you guys can watch it and get a feel for it, that he was protested for this upcoming Albemarle Sound tournament for another no information rule violation. And if you saw the first one, he had some inadvertent conversation with some dude, about, he was fishing a tournament at Lake Okeechobee, and he got this DQ'd for saying he was for being accused for getting information. Of course, why does Scott Martin need information on Lake Okeechobee? He's probably the best angler on the lake, which didn't make sense. And in this particular tournament, Scott explains the entire situation out, that he had a conversation with this individual, and he made it clear several times that he's not allowed to get information. And according to this conversation, there was no information requested or gotten. And one thing led to another, and the protest was filed against him, obviously by another Elite Series angler over the situation. So this entire thing, Bassmaster was already in a tailspin, big time. this is going to severely hurt Bassmaster in terms of getting rid of Scott Martin, because Scott has got a legion of fans and followers that he has. This is going to be a bad thing for Bassmaster. But the point I want to get in this video, what I really want to talk about in correlation with Scott, was how this no information rule has got to change, because it is not being implemented and is not being used the way it was supposed to be. Now, originally, first of all, you got to understand that people have been getting information in tournament fishing forever. I remember back in the early 80s, people doing it. This is nothing new. This information deal has been going on forever. And when this rule was initially instituted, it was designed to stop blatant information gathering to equal the playing field. For example, it was, they didn't want people calling guides to get information or fishing with guides, and that people used to do that back in the day. And then they didn't want people to be able just to cold call guys up at the, to a lake they're going and say, hey, give me the info, give me spots, give me GPS waypoints, let me know where the fish are at, and the whole 9 yards. That's what that rule was meant to. But what's happened is this rule has been twisted around, and we've seen it this year with the disqualifications with Scott, and with the disqualification of Elite Series angler Matt Herron, about this inadvertent information getting transferred through conversations resulting in a disqualification. Now, here's one of the things that Bassmaster doesn't understand with this. They don't understand a lot of things, but when you disqualify somebody like Matt Herron quit the Elite Series 2 after his disqualification, as Scott Martin is going to. When you disqualify somebody, this is a major deal, because it is a hit on their career. It's like, it can be a career-ending decision, even if somebody was in the innocent, because what happens is you get this stigma attached to you that you're some type of a cheater or a rule breaker, when you're not in reality, according to the way this rule is set up. So you open your Bassmaster and any tournament organizations, they open themselves up to a tremendous amount of liability when they decide to do this to an angler, because it can ruin their career. It can ruin them financially. It's not as simple as just like, oh, you made a little violation, we're going to DQ you. So I think that's one of the things that people have to realize with this. Now, what needs to be done with this? Because here's what happens, and I want to explain this again a little bit before, is there's not a single person that fishes professionally that has not had this happen to them over the years. That's exactly what happened to Scott Martin, because I've been there and I've done that the entire 9 yards with this. Because what happens is you'll be talking to somebody at a gas station, or you're gassing your boat up for the next day, or your car wash, you're at a restaurant, you're at the tournament, you're at the boat ramp, and there's always somebody that wants to talk to pro anglers, and they want to be helpful. And I've had them come up to me dozens and dozens of times and say the same thing. It's like, hey man, I caught a 3-pounder over on that point across the lake over there, last March or something. Or they're trying to be friendly, and you can tell them, and I've done this before. I said, man, I really appreciate it, but we're not allowed to get any information. I've had them say everything. It's like, well, it's a free country, and you can't stop me from talking, and they'll keep talking. So that is what we're talking about, is how this no information rule, it's ineffective in its current state. And like going back to Scott a little bit here again, he was protested, and Bassmaster wanted to give him a polygraph test that he didn't want to take, because there's been a lot of rumors and there's been a lot of talk about the polygraphers that Bassmaster have been using are not, people don't have confidence in them in the results. So Scott hired a private certified polygraph examiner in the state of Florida. He took the polygraph test, and he passed the polygraph test, and he's in the process of assimilating all the, the certified results to give to Bassmaster. And let me tell you something about this polygraph deal, because Matt Herron took one and failed it. And then, everybody's had experiences with this. There's a reason why polygraph tests are not admissible in court. And Matt Herron was a prime example of it. It's like, you can fail a polygraph test and be complete, and you've done nothing wrong. There's a lot of factors that can influence the polygraph test and give a negative result, big time. And that's what happened with Matt Herron. I could promise you he did not cheat in the tournament just because he failed the test. It was because there was a lot of other variables going there. And I'll give you an example myself, the polygraph test I had to take. I was fishing a Bassmaster, it was a FLW tour event down at Lake Gunnersville years ago. And I made the top 10 in the tournament. So what they did in those tournaments, they had random polygraphs. So Bill Taylor, the tournament director at the time, after I'd made the top 10, he came up to me and he goes, "Randy, you're gonna need to take a polygraph test." He goes, "You didn't do anything wrong." He goes, you got randomly selected." So I hadn't, been accused or anything. I didn't do anything wrong. I was just the person randomly selected. And when he said that, it sort of took me back a little bit. But I wasn't scared about it because I knew I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't break any rules. But anyway, here's what happens, and this is how polygraphs are terrible tools to enforce rules in tournaments. I went into this room, like this interrogation room, like the FBI was having you in some room, and there's this guy sitting in there, and there's this big machine. They strap this belt with a bunch of electrodes around your stomach and put these electrodes on you. They put these things on the end of your finger, and you're all wired up with all these probes and wires like you're in a hospital room. And I tell you right off the bat, guys, that creates anxiety because when I'm getting hooked up to this thing, I'm thinking, it's like, God, is there anything that I did wrong? It's like, did I say something or do something, or was there anything that I can't think that I did, that I broke a rule? So this is coming through my mind as I'm getting ready to have this test administered. So I just took a deep breath, and he asked the questions, and I wound up passing the test fine. But you're full of anxiety. I don't care how honest you are. It's like when you get hooked up to a dang polygraph test, it's a stressful situation. So you can't rely on that. And when somebody does this, like a Bassmaster or a tournament organization does this, a lot of people don't understand what's entailed with that. So that's another conversation as far as this, whole thing. But one of the things I want to talk about here, guys, is this just freaking tailspin that the tournament world's in. Bassmaster, all of them like that. They're in I don't care. You can sit and say, "Randy, quit being negative, quit trying to, hate on the sport." Guys, if you don't see it, if people do not see right now what's going on in the sport as a tailspin, then you're in denial of reality in terms of you got your head in the sand and you're sitting there trying to make everything out to be rainbows and unicorns when it's not. The sport of tournament fishing is in a crisis right now, and this is one part of it. And we know, and you guys hear me talking about it all the time, when you talk about all of the negativity that's surrounding tournament fishing, I have never seen anything like it at the state we're in right now. Guys, I've been doing this full time since 1984, and I have never seen the amount of division and strife and people being pissed off and leaving, and the credibility of the sport being undermined as it has the last 2 years. And number one, that is, regardless if you want to believe it or not, the number one rule is, or the number one reason for this is by Bassmaster and MLF allowing forward-facing sonar in the tournaments. The ramifications that spread off of forward-facing sonar in terms of what it's doing to the industry, co-angler participation, angler participation, boat sales, the attack on the tradition and the heritage of the sport, the division we have in the sport. Forward-facing sonar is the root problem of this. And it begs, and another thing with this whole image of the tournament organizations being tarnished because of forward-facing sonar is exasperated by this entire no information polygraph deal. That's become a big, big thing with it over the past couple of years. And it begs the answer, there's a legitimate question that people can answer. Are the tournament organizations trying to force out the older anglers with all this technology and everything? Now, I'm not accusing them of doing that. I'm not accusing Bassmaster or MLF of trying to intentionally force out the older anglers to make way for this new generation of anglers. But Matt Herron, veteran of the Bassmaster Elite Series tournament, protested, disqualified, no longer fishes the Elite Series. Now with Scott Martin, veteran out of the Elite Series. We've seen a rash of retirements over the past 3 or 4 years of veteran anglers out there. Much of it is a result of the technology. They're just tired of it. And another thing about it, guys, is I'm not saying all of them out there, but I talk to a bunch of pros, veterans that have been around for a long time. And I'm not talking veterans like my age, 60 plus. I'm talking veterans that are in their 40s, something like that. You cannot believe how many of them out there I'm talking about they cuss forward-facing sonar up and down behind closed doors, but they will not ever vocalize that opposition publicly because they don't want to be labeled and they don't want to get hated on like I do. They don't want to get hate mail like I do all the time. They just keep their mouth quiet and they grumble behind themselves about how terrible this is for the sport while the sport crumbles in the meantime. Tournament fishing is in a tailspin right now. And until that we have some changes and until forward-facing sonar is done and it gets rid of, until we have some changes on rules like this no information and this whole polygraph deal, and until we have some actual critical thinking skills and common sense decision-making processes in the tournament organizations, it's going to continue like this. And guys, it makes me sick. It makes me absolutely sad because I love the sport and it's just a big shit show right now. You can't say anything. There's no other word to describe it. It's like people are angry, people are pissed off, people are mad, people are leaving Bassmaster and not renewing their memberships like a herd of cows right now. I know it because people send me messages on it constantly. So the whole thing about this is like, what is it going to take to turn this around? And I know what it is. I've offered solutions over and over again, and it goes in one ear and out the other. And then I get a freaking attack from all these podcasters saying that I'm causing the division and, causing strife. And I'm like the freaking cult leader out there trying to, rule the waters around here. But it's not. It's about just analyzing the situation, level the playing field, and making good decisions as term of the business. But when you talk about somebody that run that run for-profit businesses like the tournament organizations are, they're going to do what they want to do. They don't have this underlying desire to like do the right thing for just no more than the reason other than just doing the right thing. It's all about generating profits. It is. And that is the underlying motive with this, because when you have electronic companies coming to you and saying, name your price, we want it to stay legal, what are people going to do that run a business, if it supports their business? So we're in a tough situation right now. And I don't know what the answer is to it. It's like, eventually maybe when enough stuff happens and enough strife has occurred, there'll be some change affected within it. But I just feel terrible right now for Scott, man. Like I said, Scott Martin's a good dude. He's got my support on this. He is really good for the sport. And just watch that video. I'll link it in the description here. You guys can see it. And I'd really be curious to get your guys' opinion. After you watch this video and after you do the research and think about this stuff, give me your opinion. What's the opinion on the state of the sport like now? What do Bassmaster and MLF and these other tournament organizations have to do to change things? Because they can deny it, guys. They can say, oh, we had the greatest classic and this is, we have more enthusiasm. It's like, yeah, you can say that. That doesn't mean it's true. And until you admit the reality of the situation and pay attention to, the base of the tournament fishing world out there, what the base wants, you can't live in this denial of reality for an extended period of time. It's eventually going to catch up with you. And I can promise you guys, you wait and see, and all you have to do is read the comments on social media. The result of Scott Martin getting Scott Martin getting protested and leaving the Elite Series tournament is going to really hurt Bassmaster in a big way. So I wish that they could come to some agreement in terms to, get stuff worked out, but I just hate seeing it, man. I hate, from somebody like myself that loves the sport, especially loves tournament fishing, and just to see this big strife that the whole tournament world is in right now, it really makes everybody sad that loves the sport. So, but like I said, they're going to do what they want to do. If they're, it's a business, they're going to run their business the way they want to. But anyway, guys, let me know what y'all think about it. Shoot me some comments and we'll check in later.